In this episode, I want to talk about functions with a return value in PHP. What the function with the return value does is returning a value back to the program from where it's called. So we want to return a specific value, and this can be text, integers, well, it could be anything. So PHP allows us two ways in which an argument can be passed into a function. The first one is passed by value, and the second one is passed by reference. I want to start off with pass by value. And this basically means that the value of the argument gets changed within a function, but the original value outside the function remains unchanged. So the best way to show you what it actually is to show you examples. So let's get started. So what we want to do is to create a function that adds two numbers. So let's create a function called add. Let's add two parameters. The first one is num1 and the second one is num2. And let's create num1 and num2. So num1 is equal to 10 and num2 is equal to 15. So what we used to do inside our function was to say echo out num1 plus num2. And let's call our function. Let's save it, refresh the browser. Let me make this a little bit bigger because we're only working with numbers. So what we are doing right here is outputting it to the browser, which makes sense. But we're not storing the value, the return value. And you might think, why don't you create a variable like this? Variable result is equal to num1, num2. And let's echo out result. Output is still the same. If we do it like this, we're not changing anything because we're using a function which is a local scope. But what we actually want to do is to store the result value, which is 25 in our case. And in order to do that, we should replace echo with a keyword return. Let's save it, refresh the browser, and you can see that the number disappeared. That just happened because the return function treats itself like a variable. So let's go right in front of where we call our function and let's say echo. The number is 25. This can be done because we are kind of dealing with a variable. A return value returns a variable. Even when we return num1 plus num2, it will become a variable in the system's eyes. Let's create a new function with the name subtract. And we want to pass in num1 and num2 again. And we want to echo out num1 minus num2. Let's call the function. Let's save it, refresh it, and let's also add a break. And the answer is -5. And you can see that it works, it prints it out on the screen. But if we want to add a piece of text in front of subtract, so let's say echo, the number is, you can see that this doesn't work because you basically cannot echo inside the echo because we're already echoing out the result and we want to place it inside another echo. Let's remove our function and our echoes of the subtraction and let's continue on with our next return value, which is passed by reference. Whenever you use the pass by reference method, the original value is passed. Therefore, the original value gets altered. In the pass by reference, we actually pass the address of the value. So most of the time, you will be using the pass by value. I've never used pass by references in real applications, but it's good to know what pass by reference means. It is pretty difficult to understand pass by reference if somebody is trying to explain it to you. So let me show you some examples. Let's create a function called add by value. And we want to add a parameter which is variable x, and we need to create variable x, which is equal to 10. Let's say that we want to add 5 to variable x. Now we need to create a new function called add by reference, so I could show you what the difference is. So what we want to do is pass variable x again, but in order to pass it by reference, you need to add an ampersand right in front of the variable. And what we want to do right here is say variable x plus equal 10. Let's go below our functions, and let's call the add by value. And we want to pass an argument x, and after that we want to echo out the value is variable x. And let's do the same thing for add by reference. So let's change it to add by reference. And let me comment out the 2 lines above. Let me echo out this one. Let's save it, refresh it, and let's also add a break in between. Take a second to see what the difference is. Whenever it goes by add by value, you can see that variable x does not change because the output is 10, even though we're adding 5. And whenever it goes by add by references, it takes variable x and it adds 10 to it. That's what we did. So therefore variable x is equal to 20 now. And that's the biggest difference. With the pass by reference method, we will manipulate the variable, and add by value will not. Thank you for watching this episode, and I will be seeing you in the next one.